everybody, it's your man James, Mr. Quinn Treasures, back again with some more video action for you. Today's another jaunt into the past as we find out why it's great. And for those of you new here, why it's great is where I take a comic back issue from the past. I tell you why I think it's so awesome and why you yourself should want to check it out. And I also want to say what today is Veterans Day. And so to all the great service members out there, I appreciate your service. And this is one I did especially for you with a man who understands some of what you guys go through. Before I reveal the book, I want to say I want to thank you all for joining me today. Hope you're doing well. And to say, if you like what you hear here, drop a like down there, help out the algorithms. Always appreciate that. Also, if you got any comments about the book or anything else, drop them down below. Always want to hear what the people got to say. It's very important to me. And also be sure to share out some links so we can bring in some new folks and get some more people checking the content out, because I always want to get those subscription numbers up. And in that vein, also, if you haven't subscribed yourself, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of the content that I'm putting out around here. So with all that out of the way, with the usual shill done, let's get into it. Today, it's Captain America number 335. It's the first adventure of the new Captain Bucky at the time, John Walker, who would later become the U.S. agent, and his companion there, who would later become Battlestar. And this is kind of a significant issue, which you wouldn't think it was, but it kind of is. And it kind of set the tone for everything that was happening in Captain America at the time, with Steve Rogers quitting and John Walker taking over the mantle. And it kind of lays the groundwork for everything that's going to happen after this, because you're going to see little bits and pieces throughout this story that kind of signify certain things you're going to see later in the book. With all that out of the way, let's actually do that and bring up our book. So we'll get me off the screen here, and then we'll share our screen so that we can enjoy the book. And here we go. Here it is, Captain America number 330. Now, I love this cover because right here, just from the very get-go, you can see with this great image by who is Tom Morgan? Yeah, Tom Morgan, that you can see. It's just, you can tell right away, this is not your father's Captain America. You can see him right here. It is like enraged. I mean, let's even get bigger. Look at that look on his face. I mean, that is not the look of a man who's going to do you no harm. You know what I'm saying? And here he's just surrounded by the villains of the piece, known as the Watchdogs. We'll get more into them in a minute, but it's just a great issue, and you can say it says right here, featuring the new Cap in his very first adventure. It's his first official mission after taking on the role of Captain America. So it's one that kind of has some significance to it. So definitely one that's worth checking out here. But yeah, I love this great image by Tom Morgan. He really he's really an underrated artist. A lot of his stuff, he's got you can see these thick, bold lines. You can see right here. Look at the lines on Cap here. And on the on the Watchdog, the thick bold lines, it really make it stand out, And I believe it's Sinnott who inked this cover, though the interiors are done by Dave Hunt. But yeah, just a great team here of a classic smooth inker like Sinnott on a guy like Tom Morgan here. And again, just the image alone. I mean, this right here, it sets you up for what you're going to see, and just it lets you know this is not your father's Captain America. So let's get on into it. And I like this. I like how they do this. Mark Ruenwald starts it off right the way he should, right in the middle of action. I always like stories that start in the middle of action. It gets you excited. Here they are, in doing some training, and you can see baptism of fire, and it's gonna really shake things up here. So, and you can see they continue their testing, and it just shows you how well skilled they are. I mean, I love the posing in here. I love all that. I mean, he just batarams right through, just boom, nothing stops them. They're going to get it done no matter what. And then even further, again, just more. This is almost like a fastball special right here. You can see with the glasses in hand, and he clasps his hand and throws them almost like a fastball special out of the X-Men. I think Wolverine and Colossus would be impressed with that right there. But I like how they ended here. He captures the flag, just right on through the flame, and you can see they're being watched by the Commission. Saying that they got great teamwork, and they think they're going to be a great team working together. So then they get out, and I love this. Oh, my aching back. Want to bet that we set a new record running that obstacle course? I mean, I just love that stuff. The little fun stuff that you don't really think about too much, and you can see that they get the appreciation, and then all the people were making their comments about what they saw. Let's hope he's more cooperative than the original, because Steve Rogers quit on them. And we got a good soldier here, and of course you got the one guy in the back thinking showboat and so and so. There's always got to be that guy in any group, no matter what you got. It's always that guy. So they asked if we're ready for field assignment, and he goes, I'm eager to get on the job you chose me for. And he goes, and you are a go-getter, aren't you? Well, there's one important thing first, and he takes the oath of Captain America. But take a note of this. This is kind of important. It's going to play up again later in the series. You can see here, I solemnly swear to obey the laws of the nation, to uphold the Constitution, and to defend liberty, justice, and the American way. Now that sounds all good, right? But then look at the next bit. I shall carry out the directives of the commission to the best of my ability, in or out of uniform, in perpetuity, so help me God. The directives of the commission, not of the president, not of the nation, not of the people, the commission. See, this is an important aspect you need to keep in mind when you're reading this issue. It's something small, but like you can see by the way the word is bolded. You can tell that's they always did that to show emphasis on the word, but the emphasis here is very, very important. This is something Grunwald is starting to lay the groundwork right here. He's laying the groundwork. He's not going to be like the Captain America we know, who was more like doing what he felt was right. This is a Captain America who's going to be doing what he's told by the commission, not even by the president, the commission, and that's a significant change. So we start to see the first beginnings of the troubles within the commission, because Valerie Cooper, says, she didn't know that they were going to be given their first assignment so soon. And he's like, yes, you see, Ms. Cooper, you've done such a splendid job overseeing their basic training program that I'd like to continue. I'd like you to continue that in that capacity with their further education. Mr. Samish here will be coordinating their field activities. So there it is right there. So already you got within the commission, there's headbutting going on, which does not bode well for the future for these guys. But, they start talking about what they think the mission is going to be. He goes, they doubt it'll be anything too strenuous because they don't want us to fail. All the money they put into us, and to have us go out there the first time and fail is not going to look good. They still intend to pass you off as the original Cap. You don't look or sound a lot like that old guy to me. And he goes, unfortunately, there aren't that many people who are experts on how he looked and sounded. So again, you see, they're trying to keep it for now that Captain America is the same Captain America that has always been, even though this is a completely different person. And this page, I just want to say, for all the people who've complained, some who complain so much about how the women are posed in comics sometimes, especially in superhero fictions, and how they're sexified to for the male gaze. Well, ladies, if you ever want to complain about that nonsense, here's a page right here that shows the opposite. You got these buff dudes, get in the shower. There you go. It happens to guys too. We all get it. Just learn to deal with it. It's no big deal. But while they're getting cleaned up, they're talking, and where's that? He goes, once they think they want to establish a good track record. Once I've won the public acclaim, they'll hold a press conference and announce that I'm the new and improved Captain America from 1987. You see, so he's trying to figure out what these guys' plans are for. And then they get into some stuff here where they start talking about Steve Rogers. He goes, do you think they were withholding, unless the real Cap tries to scorch it somehow? He goes, I wonder what happened to him. He goes, do you think they're withholding info on it? He goes, maybe, or maybe the old Cap has gone into hiding out of shame. After all, he really shirked his duties to the country by refusing to go along with the commission's plan to coordinate his official activities. Still can't figure out what motivated him to toss in the towel. Ego, I guess, couldn't handle taking orders. Now, see, again, this is, another small thing in this issue, but watch this. This is important. Here he is kind of talking smack on Steve Rogers, not knowing the situation, just assuming, it's ego, and he's ashamed, and that's why he's just disappeared. No one's heard anything about him. That's why he's not made any big stink about a new Captain America, because, he's just too full of himself. But he's going to learn a lesson before this is all over. And then we come to our villains of the story, the Watchdogs, who are a sort of a paramilitary group who goes after businesses and people who, let's just say, are a corrupting influence in society. That's probably the best way to denote them, a corrupting influence in society. And so they here, as you can see, an adult bookstore, they blow it up. filth and perversion are a blight that only can be cleansed by fire, and then someone gets shot. And then, this page right here is just incredible. The guy comes out, he says, "You destroyed everything I've worked for. That's the only way I'm making a living." So the watchdogs line up like execution style. And you can see even there's one guy in the line. He goes, "Oh man, blowing a building is one thing, but gunning down a man in cold blood, what am I going to do?" And then you see what happens. I mean, this is like 1987, but man, for a book like Captain America, this is like extremely violent. I mean, look at it, just gunned him down. You can see, and it's not like the old days where like the blood is black or purple or some different color. Maybe they took this image here and would have had it all be one color, like all blue, and so you wouldn't notice. No, they're very much showing you the blood. They show you the violence of this group. And then the guy here, the one who had his reservations, "Hope nobody noticed I aimed high when we all shot. Not that makes a difference to this poor geek." And so, they feel they've done their job for the day. We blew up the building. We took care of the smut merchant. Let us toss the carcass of this filthmonger into the fire. And it's just they have no respect for anyone that does not feel the way they do. Kind of feels a little bit like that today now, doesn't it? With people who have certain opinions and they can't accept that others have different opinions. Just kind of interesting about that. Just want to note that, and so, and then so they check on their guy, and you can see again our boy who had the reservations. He goes, "I bet if he'd been killed, head dog would have tossed him into the fire too. Man, oh man, I didn't think it'd be like this when I joined." And so like they take off, and then they come back to Cap and his crew, and they're giving a lowdown on the story about who the watchdogs are, what they're going to do. And and he tells me the watchdogs believe themselves to be the arbiters of public good. They're against pornography, sex education, abortion, the teaching of evolution, anything they believe to be immoral. And look at Walker. He goes, "I'm against those things too." Kind of interesting. He goes, "While every citizen or group of citizens has a right to their opinions, of course, no one's entitled to commit vandalism, arson, or murder." And so he goes, "So we're going in to stop them, right?" And he goes, "Yeah, that's basically it." And he goes, let's see. But he notices in the report, he goes, "Sir, some of their activities are in the vicinity of where I grew up. Precisely. That should give you an advantage. Being familiar with the area and the people should enable you to infiltrate relatively easy, right?" "Yes, sir." So they send him off on the mission, and he goes, "Hey, John, I thought you figured there'd be something easy for our first mission. This looks tricky." He goes, "Yeah, I guess I figured it wrong." And Bucky's just trying to play it up like, I guess it's better to go against guys like this than up against Dr. Doom or the Red Skull. But Walker here, he's not having it. He's like, "I just wish it didn't have to be my old stomping grounds. There's so much greater chance I'll be recognized or forced to turn in somebody I don't know." Oh, you can see that the wheels are turning in his head now. He sees this isn't going to be some piece of cakewalk job. So he heads back home into his hometown, comes to his old buddy at the barbershop here, Harold. They have a little bit of banter, talking and stuff. And he goes, telling me to think about settling back here. He goes, "As far as I'm concerned, the rest of the country just isn't a fit place to raise a family down here. Folks aren't afraid to make a stand for decency." And he tells me, "Hey, you sound like the watchdog." He goes, "Yeah, aren't they something to be proud of? But again, but doesn't quite work the way he thought." And he goes, "Not proud of myself, fibbing to an old friend, hoping to get information. Didn't even get a lead. So much for beginner's luck. Now what should I try?" So it's like his first attempt, not very successful. So he goes back to the hotel where he's hanging out with Bucky, and they're planning out their stories, and you can see here, they're playing it up because of they're in the South. So of course, I got to tell you, John, the people around here don't take too kindly to folks of my persuasion. I thought the lady who took my newspaper ad was going to call a lynch mob. You see, so you can right there, they're playing up the whole, racist hicks, in a small town. And, he tries to tell me, he goes, "They're good people, just a bit provincial in some ways." He goes, he checked around, but so far no one's admits knowing anything about the watchdogs. So tomorrow's scam, they're going to try to do a scam to draw the watchdogs out. And so they get ready, and here we got 3 days later at a hotel room, and all these women lined up, and it's like, golly, I'd do anything to be one of those fancy dressed models. $200 if I'm picked. Oh, please. Wonder if he makes us show what we got, and so we can see right here, he got Bucky is pretending to be like some kind of like magazine guy, called for Looker magazine, and he's trying to pick out some women to do some pictorials, as it were. And I get it. Well, my daddy said if you got it, flaunt it. And so, he's talking to him, and he goes, "Yeah, if you have any experience." "No, I don't." He goes, "You wouldn't mind men drooling over your picture?" He goes, I don't think so." And then that's just when Walker shows up, and he just comes in like a raging bull. I love that. I love this angle right here of the slamming door, the girls in the foreground, like all scared, him like just looking like a raging bull. Just a great shot right here. I love this. I love this imagery right here. Just very visceral. And he comes in. He's and you can see the girl. She knows him, and he's like, "Marilyn Norfolk, I took her to senior prom. She'd fall for this." So he's like almost disappointed that the girl is one that he knows, and that she's fallen for this line from this guy, that they're playing it up. And she's, "Oh, I'm so embarrassed. What he must think of me." And so he gets a little hot, pretends, and then they go for it. Then they start to fight. He goes, "Hold on, Mr. Mouth. I know my rights. Now get lost before I call the cops." And of course, I love, again, the humor, the testosterone fueled comebacks. I love that stuff. "The only thing you're going to be calling for is your mama." And then he goes, "Let's make it look good." And so that's when the fight starts. And they're like really getting into it. Boom, boom. They're just like trashing the place and trashing each other. He calls him a tempter, a corrupter, an agent of Satan. And he's like, "Yeah, hey, let's not get carried away." And he goes, "How long do I have to keep this up?" He goes, "Till the police arrive." He goes, "Hope they get here soon. Even with augmented strength, a fella could get hurt around here." And I just love that. I just look at the place. It's just a shambles from these guys with their super strength, just like tearing it apart like it's nothing. So of course they got arrested, but Walker gets bailed out by his friend Harold. And then he goes, he goes, "Thanks for getting me out." He goes, "Word travels fast in these parts." He goes, "Look, John, I got some friends who really stand behind what you did. They're the ones who got your bail money up. They'd like to meet with you if you have a mind to." And he goes, "Oh yeah." He goes, "This could be it. This could be my ticket in." And that night he goes, and yep, it's them. So "You seem like our kind of man, Mr. Walker. Not many people would make a stand for decency the way you did." So he's kind of, phonied his way in to these guys, thinking that he's just like them, that he has the same kind of convictions about doing, whatever is necessary in the name of decency and, anti-corruption, things like that. So they give him a little slip here to tell him for their next assembly on Thursday. And when he shows up, again, you can see what they're kind of aligning the watchdogs to. You can see the kind of group they're kind of linking them to historically. I mean, it's pretty dang obvious. It's almost like they got the subtlety of a sledgehammer. But they bring him in. He goes, "Man, I wish they didn't have to really know who I am. If I make the slightest slip up, they'll realize I'm Captain America. But what choice do I have? I might not have been able to infiltrate so quickly without catching in on my local reputation." So they do a little bit of shtick of what their plans are. And he goes, "I solemnly vow to walk the virtuous path, to safeguard society from the forces that would corrupt it, and to destroy the enemies of decency, of morality, and of the values upon which our country was founded." And he goes, "This is weird. I believe in those things their oath is about." So you see, again, he can see the conflicting feelings he has. He knows these guys are doing the wrong things, but he sees they're kind of doing them for the right reasons. And that's the conflict within him. It's the conundrum he faces, but that's not going to be the only one he faces. So then he has to take a vow, to join the group. And I love this right here, the thought bubble. "This is the second swearing in ceremony I've been to in less than a week. I feel like such a hypocrite, because he just took his Captain America oath, and now here he's taking another oath." So he gets on the uniform. He goes, "They're going to be doing something tonight. The only trick will be slipping away to change into my cap uniform." But before that happens, this goes down. He calls to his brother and says, "Bring forth the pornographer." And what's happening? Could he mean he does? It's Lamar. How did he get a hold of him? Why didn't he use his augmented strength to break free? Unless he's just playing along to no, his gait is shaky. He must have been drugged. What do they intend to do? And of course, we all know what they're going to do because we saw it earlier. And again, going with the subtlety of a sledgehammer and how they're going to do it, because, the way to kill the other guy was with guns, and that's going to kill you. But why here? Why with this? Well, again, I think this goes back to some of the politics of the writer. But, it is what it is. It's so this shows that this kind of stuff has always been around to some degree, but at least it's not as prevalent as it was now. So at least there's that much. So they go to strangle him, they go to string him up, and he doesn't know if can Lamar's augmented neck muscles stand up to the strain of strangulation. There's no way I can switch to Cap. And here it is. This is where we start to see some of the first cracks form. And if I just raise my voice in protest, I'll blow my credibility, spoiling my chance to catch them in the act. He doesn't know what to do. Does he save his friend, or does he go on with the mission? And that's what he says. Man, this mission has been bad news from the start. First, it takes me to my hometown. Then I'm forced to oppose guys whose moral stand I'm in basic agreement with. Then I find my high school sweetheart is ready to sell her propriety for a couple of bucks. After that, I learn an old buddy of mine is in cahoots with these guys I'm going to bust. And now I'm forced to do nothing as they lynch my friend. This couldn't have been tougher for me if the commission planned it. Planned it? Maybe they did. Maybe they arranged for all this. Maybe this is a test. But if it is, what's the right answer? What's more important, Lamar's life or the mission? You see, and so he's starting to for the first time question what it is the commission is going to make him do as Captain America. So they go to head out, and they're going to leave him there. And he goes, everyone's leaving. What do I do? He goes, it's like the commission wants to know if I'm willing to risk a friend's life for the sake of a mission. Those blasted, so he's right there. So he has to go, and he can tell the guy calls him away. It's Harold, his friend. He goes, then he's one of the watchdogs I'll have to bust. And it says, I pray you can handle this, Lamar. And he has to go. So then they go out to a library, which supposedly has books that they disagree with. They're going to burn it down when suddenly he shows up. It's Captain America. And I love this. Evildoers beware. I just love this image right here. This is a beautiful image right here of Cap leaping into the heart of battle. And you really couldn't tell any difference between Walker's Cap and Steve Rogers' Cap in a moment like this. But I love that. Sheesh, that was corny. What is the Captain America's battle cry anyway? I better just keep my mouth shut if I can't think of anything appropriate to say. Less chance anyone will recognize me by my voice that way. And so he jumps in, and the watchdogs take at him. And you can see again, it's just great action that you expect. Again, Morgan and Hunt do a great job here. And you can see the classic poses, swinging and hitting him with the shield. Punching him in the face, throws the shield, takes out all their torches, and then I like this. All right, it worked. I'm in the right position to catch, because again, don't forget he's new at this, so he's using these skills in the field for the first time. So you can kind of he's a little excitement from this, and that kind of makes you a little excited. All those hours of shield practice the past couple of months really paid off. Just like he's just knocking them around like 10 pins. So then they decide to dogpile him. You see, that's what I'm saying. It's against the watchdogs. He goes, yeah, we're taking you down, traitor. He goes, yeah, you took me down, all right, boys, but keeping me down is another story. And he just like again just tosses them like they're leaves, just boom, and then minutes later it's over. He goes, I was beginning to wonder if I was going to have to go lug all 16 of these jokers to the station myself. So the police show up. He's Captain America. He tells him what the deal is. I'll make a statement later because I got to find Lamar. And, what's this? We see feet hanging. Is it? No, it's not. He goes, you came back. Me leave you stranded out here? Never. He goes, I just knew you could handle the situation yourself, pal, like blazes I did. I was dealing with Lem's life. I just hope he understands. And he tells him, yeah, it was scary for a second, but I broke the cuffs and I broke the rope. It's all good. He goes, know how I have it figured? This whole thing was a test by the commission. No, they didn't invent the watchdogs, but they infiltrated the group and placed key people in it to make it as difficult a test for me as they could. It really rankles me that they go to such elaborate lengths to test me. I'd really like to tell them how much it stinks. But if they knew I figured it out, that would probably only invalidate the whole thing. And I'd always wonder if I'd always have to wonder if they'd spring another on me. I wonder if this is why the original Cap quit on them. He just couldn't trust them. See, now I remember what he said earlier during the shower scene. He's like, he was just a guy full of ego and shame, and that's why he quit because he couldn't handle it. And now he's thinking, maybe this is why. Maybe that guy quit because he couldn't trust the commission. And don't forget, when he took his oath as Captain America, he was swearing to follow the directives of the commission. Again, like I said, that's why it was important to note, not the president, not the nation, not the people, not the laws of the land, the commission. And that's where all this is leading. And so right here from the get-go, from his first time as Cap, he's already got doubts in his head about the people he's working for. And again, this is the kind of stuff that Grunwald spent like the next year and a half with Walker as Cap brewing, just more and more making the shadowiness of the commission and Walker's conflicted feelings about it. And of course, then Steve Rogers comes back in, and then so it all comes to a head eventually. But this is where it all starts to get the groundwork laid. I really love it. And again, I just loved all the thought balloons. Something I really miss in comics today. Look at how much information and how much characterization we got from balloons like these, or like this one up here, where he's telling him, yeah, I thought you could handle it, but inside he's like, oh, I was gambling your life. I didn't think, that you could handle it. And this is the good stuff. This is the great characterization you don't see anymore in comics, and I really miss it. But like I said, great action throughout. His, like I said, this shot right here, this is classic Captain America right here. I just love that. Just beautiful stuff. He's just leaping right into the heart of the battle. With this, oh, damn the torpedoes, full steam ahead type of attitude. I love that. But like I said, and then you saw, but like he has conflicting things about, he agrees with these watchdogs, feelings about things, their moral stand, but he doesn't agree with their actions. And yet at the same time, he's working for the commission, but now he's not sure he can trust them. It's all duplicity. It's all conspiracy. It's all corruption, all just, and he's like kind of stuck in the middle of all this. So, like I've always thought that, the Walker, Captain America always got a raw deal. A lot of people didn't like him right from the start because, he was kind of made not to be liked when he was a super patriot and stuff. But I've always thought that the Walker Cap, he tried to do the best he could. He was a guy who was put in an untenable situation. And, he just did the best that he could. And you can see right here from the very beginning. And again, like I said, this right here, all this, the violence of the issue is like, wow, it's not cartoony. It's not, padded out. It's not like, they were trying to say, oh, no one really got hurt in this. No, people get hurt. And they showed it very, very violently, in fact. But I mean, just here he is, going from, a test to where he feels like I'm the man to at the end, he's kind of like questioning everything now. What should he believe? Who can he believe? Who can he trust? And again, it added lots of layers to Captain America in this period. 1987, 88, great time for Captain America stuff. Like I said, I love the Walker run. This issue is a standout among them. And Grunwald did a great job with this, even though it got a little heavy-handed with some of the analogies he was portraying in the issue. But again, it's just such a well-told tale. Even though he injected probably some of his political leanings in the story, Grunwald never let it overshadow the story of Walker in this. You see, again, the conflicting feelings he's having throughout the whole thing, the questionings of everything, the wonderings of everything. It was really about his having to deal with this stuff, and all the rest was just sort of backdrop, just settings, just, window dressing. And that's the way you should use your politics. If you're going to inject your politics into a story like this at all, that's the way you use them, just the way Grunwald did here. Even though he, like I said, he was a little heavy-handed at times with it, but it's still again, a great issue. Lots of great stuff. Again, Tom Morgan, a very highly underrated penciler, someone who I think never really got his shine back in these days, and never got the acclaim of other guys who worked on this book, like Sal Buscema, Mike Zeck, Kieran Dwyer. These guys all got their kudos for their Cap runs, but the short run Morgan did here with the transition of Steve Rogers to John Walker, he never really got his due, and I think that's a little unfair because, like I said, his work is very, very excellent, especially this cover. I mean, again, just this ain't your father's Captain America. That's what this is telling you straight out. This is a Cap for a new age, for a new generation. He's much harsher. He's much more inclined to take it to you. He's not going to soft shoe anything, and when he gets ticked off, look out, baby, because that's again something we see later in the series that comes out. So definitely one worth checking out, Captain America 335 from 1987. Again, it's just a great book, and like I said, for understanding the character of John Walker, This issue to me is key. This is why I never hated the character, why I actually enjoyed his run as Cap. And I think if you guys really dig into it the way I just did here, I think you'll enjoy it that way too. And some of the stuff you may have heard about John Walker, later in the series, you'll come to understand it better by an issue like this. So definitely worth one checking out there. And there we have it. Captain America 335 from 1987, another one in the books. I hope you guys enjoyed it, especially those of you who are servicemen. Again, this one was a special for you. Normally, I release these on Wednesdays, but I'm doing it this week on Tuesday for Veterans Day for all the veterans out there. Again, thank you for your service. And I will be back soon with some more stuff. I got, of course, I've got another artist appreciation come up. Also, I got another new idea for a concept of a new bit I'm going to do around here. And in fact, unlike some of the other stuff you've seen, this is unlike what they do with the comics. They may say it, but they don't mean it because you demanded it. Someone actually suggested this to me and I decided to take it up. And so I'm going to try to work on that. Hopefully I'll have it for you before the end of the week. If not, definitely it'll be next week. You'll have to check out this new little idea I'm going to be working with, and hopefully it'll be one you guys enjoy. And I'll be back soon with some more stuff. And until next time, take care.